and we're still immersed in the nectar of chapter 6, Adi-lila of Caitanya Caritamrta. And we're describing and discussing the glories of Advaita Acharya. So we'll begin our reading. Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahaja Virupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Datana Rupe, Swadala Sarupe. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunai Varati Nokalo Samadhapayitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Tikatam Vasitapita Sada Kradare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Achuhava Putre Titam Matayo Tarabo Benedustam Sarabhutam Hridim Munimaratoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charanatikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and all our divine Rupanuga Guru Varg, and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vansha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam papnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So yesterday we climbed through an amazing 7-8 page purport of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, unpacking the nature of what is Sankhya philosophy. And we went through the beautiful explanation of Baladev Vidyabhushan dismantling that Sankhya philosophy. Ultimately, that Sankhya philosophy proclaims that matter comes from matter, that matter is the original cause, and matter is the creation of this material universe. Everything is coming from matter, which when we really analyze it down, as our dearmost Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has taken the trouble to really nail it down, so to speak, it's just completely an absurd philosophy. Yet it's couched in a language that is similar to the Vedic teachings. So one could be swept away with the conclusions if one has a desire to himself be the Lord of creation. This is the point. If you believe in matter and your material body and the joy of material existence, then this philosophy of Advaitavad, ultimately, that we are one with that Supreme, ultimately we are that Supreme, will be very appealing. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has gone very deeply into this and explaining this very, very beautifully, step by logical, rational step. So perhaps we need to read this purport again and again, regularly, to know where it is in the Caitanya Caritamrta, within this chapter. It's in chapter verse 14 and 15.
so we can remember where this is, and for future reference, we can come back to this point of understanding the nature of Sankhya philosophy and why it was so appealing to people. Because ultimately it carries you beyond moksha, so to speak, into the Brahman, which basically is moksha. But it carries you to the Brahman. Sankhya philosophy, Advaitavad, is described as covered Buddhism, which is merging with the Brahmajyoti or Nirvana. That's basically what it is. So it's very important. We've already discussed at length previously about Mayavadism in connection with Nityananda purifying these conceptions also. So this is what has to be purified in this material conditioned state. We have to know conclusively, with all our rationale, with all our intelligence, has to be satisfied on all points. If there's doubts somewhere at some points of time, then it can just completely erode our complete understanding of the topic of our devotion to Krishna. It's almost like we can get hijacked by these conceptions because they are so prominent and prevalent in the world today. We know, we see what is happening. They're not speaking so eloquently, but still the basic mood and desire to be the Lord, to be the controllers, imagining that we are the controller, therefore I have to fight with you, I don't like you, etc. And this kind of behavior will naturally go on. The envy in man will rise and become frustrated and so on. His material desires will just keep growing exponentially. So this is the nature of Advaitavadism, or turning away from Krishna. And that great personality, Advaita Acharya, he has come to purify these misconceptions. Ultimately, we're going to read more closely how Advaita Acharya called the Lord because he wanted to establish Shuddha Bhakti in this world. He wanted to establish the mood of pure devotion to the Lord. Everywhere he saw in his life before Mahaprabhu came was nothing but degradation in the material society, where they're trying to enjoy matter exactly the same as today. This hedonistic nature of man, where he just wants to be, he's turned away from the Lord, and because of his nature to be an enjoyer, he has to look for enjoyment in matter. So therefore we're trying to substantiate that matter is the controller and the creator, that everything has come from matter. So I will be very attached to matter. And this is the Sankhya philosophy. Ultimately, we've just talked yesterday, they describe that matter comes from matter. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada just rationally and intelligently concludes that nothing can come without the mercy of the Lord. One example that was given yesterday, very clear and beautiful analogy or description, how the materialist, the Sankhya-rites, the Advaitavadis, say that trees just come by themselves from the earth. So we've experienced this. We've seen when some land is cleared and it's left for a few months, many sprouts will come. No one has planted them. So they conclude that life is coming from matter. The earth is matter, yet it's produced life in the form of trees and vegetation and so on. But we know that the soul has to enter each one of those plants to manifest it. Those plants can't grow. They can't take birth. They can't reproduce. They can't grow old, dwindle and die, etc. That's the nature of the soul. This is the symptoms of the soul, is growth, intelligence, etc. Birth, old age, death. These are all symptoms of the soul. So the soul has taken shelter of a particular seed, that what was in the earth. And then from that seed, it's germinated into a plant. But without that seed, that soul entering, the seed would never manifest. So this is one example. that was given amongst many. So a very beautiful, incredible explanation. And I hope that you were able to hear it with a submissive mood and realizing that these are very significant, deep matters that we need to meditate on and to hear repeatedly. This conception is repeatedly spoken in different ways, coming at different angles of it, but this was like hardcore, so to speak, dismantling the Sankhya-rite Advaitavad philosophy and showing that actually Advaita Acharya, in him calling the Lord, is almost like he's calling that supreme spirit to manifest more strongly within the material world, which he does. And the conceptions that Mahaprabhu ultimately distributes to the jivas are just phenomenal. So Advaita Acharya is initially establishing Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion to the Lord. And his identity is being described here clearly by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in a most sublime way. So we'll continue to relish the glories of Advaita Acharya, because this is what the chapter is all about. So we concluded 14 and 15, the purport. We come to text 16 today. So in my book it's on page 598. Chapter 6, Adi-lila, chapter 6.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Apane Parusha Vishwara Nimitta Karan Advaita Rupa Upadan Hana Narayan.
Translation. Lord Vishnu himself is the efficient nimitta cause. Remember we were saying yesterday that the nimitta means like the trigger. It's like the initial, the inspirational cause, the principle, the first cause of the material world. Very simple. But the language nimitta might confuse us initially, but when we get used to the word, nimitta means the efficient. It means the principle, the trigger cause. And Narayan, in the form of Sri Advaita, is the material cause. So Lord Vishnu is that Supreme Lord, and manifesting from Lord Vishnu, who ultimately manifests himself from Brajendranandan Shyam Sundar, from Mool Sankarshan. Now we're coming into the manifestations of Mahasankarshan. We discussed all this in relationship with Nityananda Prabhu. We need to get the picture, the line, so to speak, the progression. So we discussed previously with Nityananda Prabhu, there are two Chatuvyuhas, two quadruple expansions. This was discussed in length. So the first is manifesting from Mool Sankarshan. Mool means root or original Sankarshan, Balaram. And then from Lord Balaram, then the second quadruple expansion will manifest. And that is Mahasankarshan. So these are the expansions of Mahasankarshan, coming from Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu is the root. Nityananda Prabhu is described as Bhakta Swarup, the incarnation of devotion. Devotion is the power, so to speak. And Nityananda is that powerful personality who's manifesting these worlds, ultimately from Nityananda Prabhu. But then the devotional manifestation, this Bhakta avatar, the person who's going to actually create all this cosmic manifestation, is himself Advaita Acharya. So this is what we're appreciating here. Lord Vishnu himself is the efficient nimitta cause of the material world, and Narayan is the form of Sri Advaita, and Narayan in the form of Sri Advaita is the material cause, the upadan. So the material cause is the upadan, and this is Advaita Acharya. Text 17.
Nimitang sakarinteho mayate ikshana Upadana Advaita Karine Brahmanan Srijana.
Translation. Lord Vishnu, in his efficient aspect, glances over the material energy, Mahavishnu, he's glancing. And Sri Advaita, as the material cause, that's the pradhan, creates the material world. So the pradhan is like resting there initially in its unconglomerate state. It's its primordial state. It's there's another word I forgot. Creates the material world. That's prakriti. From the pradhan is manifesting the prakriti. When the pradhan becomes agitated by the element of time, that comes in the seed of the glance coming from Karanadakshay Vishnu towards Maya. In that seed is the element of time, and that time agitates the three modes of material nature, and after that, then material prakriti will manifest. And this is that manifestation is due to Advaita Acharya, that personality who is manifesting the prakriti. He's the creator of all the worlds.
Yadyapi sankhya mane pradana karana jada hoite kabunaye jagata srichana.
Although Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the world never arises from dead matter. So yes, they accept the material ingredients, the pradhan, so to speak. They describe it very nicely as the 24, 25 elements that we discussed yesterday. They describe all of this. And it's very attractive explanation. And so many millions are connecting with that. Even today in India, this Advaitavad, or Mayavad practically, it's the same, ultimately. Brahmavad. Brahmavad is a little different, but Mayavad. Although Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the world never arises from dead matter. That's the sum and substance of Baladev Vidyabhushan's refutation of Sankaracharya's doctrine, that the creation of the world never arises from dead matter. It can't. Just like I gave the example of the soil. Plants can't come just from the soil without the soil injecting the plant initially. It's very simple. It's really, really basically simple. Text 19.
Nija Srishti Shakti Prabhu Sankarai Pradhana Ishvarer Shakti Tabu Hoyata Nirmana.
Translation: the Lord infuses the material ingredients with his own creative potency. Then by the power of the Lord, creation takes place. Everything is empowered by the Lord. It's most sublime, comforting, and wonderful for the devotee to hear these truths. It gives us great faith and attraction to the Lord that he performs these activities. It's all manifesting. Everything in existence is manifesting from the Lord. Text 20. With the direction of his avatars, of Advaita in this instance, and previously Nityananda Prabhu as Mahasankarshan, and then manifesting the Purusha avatars, etc. So all this is going on this way. Text 20.
Advaita Rupakari Shakti Sancharanan Ataiva Advaita Haine Mukhya Karan.
Translation. In the form of Advaita, he infuses the material ingredients with creative energy. This is coming from Advaita. Advaita is infusing the material elements. Therefore, Advaita is the original cause of creation. He's the cause. He's not the Nimitta. The Nimitta is actually, the initial is Vishnu, is Lord Narayan with the glance. And Advaita is manifesting the creation. Text 21.
Advaita Charya Koti Brahmanandera Kata Karta Ara Eka Eka Murtya Brahmanander Bharata.
Translation. Sri Advaita Acharya is the creator of millions and millions of universes, and his expansions are Garbhodakshay Vishnu. he maintains each and every universe. So this is coming from Mahavishnu, who is non-different to Advaita Acharya. Mahavishnu and Advaita Acharya are the same. This will be described. Mahavishnu is manifesting from Lord Narayan. Mahavishnu himself is non-different to Advaita Acharya in the creation. Text 22.
Se Narayana Mukhya Anga Advaita Anga Shabde Angsha Kari Kohe Bhagavata.
Translation. Sri Advaita is the principal limb, Anga, of Narayan. So Narayan is the principal, and Advaita is his principal limb, which means Mahavishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam speaks of limb, Anga, as a plenary portion, Angsa, of the Lord. So I'll keep reading because the limb is going to be explained as an integral part of the Lord. Text 23.
Narayanas Tvam Nahi Sarvadehinam Atmasya Adikshakila Loka Shakshi Narayano Nrigam Narabu Jalayam Nat Takchapi Satyam Natavaiva Maya.
O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. This is Lord Brahma speaking to Brajendranandan Shamsundar in Vrindavan. I'll explain in a second. Are you not therefore my father, Narayan? So Lord Brahma, his comprehension is that the ultimate creator is Narayan, but he's seeing now that actually Brajendranandan Shamsundar is infusing that Narayan. That Brajendranandan Shamsundar is actually higher in a sense than Lord Narayan. Narayan refers to one whose abode is in the water, born from Nara, Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And that Narayan is your plenary portion. So he's saying to Brajendranandan Shamsundar that Narayan is the plenary portion of Krishna. This is what he's saying. He's looking at Krishna. He tested Krishna's mystical ability when he saw the Aghasura demon merging into the footprint, the foot of Krishna. And then he understood this is such a powerful person. And by the prompting inspiration of Yogamaya, he challenged Krishna by stealing the cowherd boys and cows and calves for a whole year. And he was trying to test his mystic potency with the Supreme Lord's mystic potency. And the result was so astonishing for Lord Brahma. He actually saw that Supreme Brajendranandan Shamsundar himself in Vrindavan ultimately, when he comes to return the boys, and he sees all the manifestations of the Krishna Murtis, the Vishnu Murtis, that Krishna has manifested from his body of all the cowherd boys and all the calves. It's described that all his senses, his 11 senses, are jolted. He climbs down from his swan carrier and he weeps profusely, offering prayers. This is one of the prayers that he's offering. This is from the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is where this is. And he's saying that from Brajendranandan Shamsundar is manifesting Lord Narayan. And now we're understanding that from Lord Narayan is manifesting another limb, which is Mahavishnu. We've all seen that painting, reclining in the causal ocean and all the millions and billions of universes. It's described actually unlimited billions of universes are manifesting from his body. This is Advaita Acharya. These are the glories of Advaita Acharya. Text 24, translation. This verse describes the limbs and plenary portions of the Lord are all spiritual. Not only spiritual, they're Vishnu Tattva. They're completely the same potency as Vishnu. There's some distinction, but still they're exactly the same potency. They have no relationship with the material energy, nothing to do with this material world at all. Because it would seem confusing, because it seems like Advaita Acharya walks amongst. He stays in Shantipur, he performs all kinds of activities. But we have to understand from this Caitanya Caritamrta reading his real supreme identity. If we can catch up his supreme identity, then we'll be able to appreciate Advaita Acharya so much more. If Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu had demonstrated too much their actual Vishnu forms in the world, people would have tried to have imitated them. This is why they came as devotees. Nityananda came as the greatest devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu himself comes as a devotee, and Advaita Acharya himself comes as a devotee. This will be explained. Text 25.
Angsana kaya kena kahatandra anga, angsa haite anga yate haya antaranga.
Translation. Why has Sri Advaita been called a limb and not a part? The reason is that limb implies greater intimacy. Very beautiful, sweet explanation. A limb implies greater intimacy. It's remarkable how Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has composed this scripture, and he gives all credence to his Madan Mohan and Radha Govinda, who are composing this literature. He describes later on, he's just an old man, very feeble. He can't even understand he can't see properly, his hands are trembling, and yet he's writing this. He's understand completely that it's the Supreme Lord who is manifesting his potency through. So we are reading the words of the Supreme Lord coming through his great Bhakta, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Text 26.
Mahavishnu angsa advaita gunadam, Ishvare advaita teni advaita punanam.
Sri Advaita, who is the reservoir of virtues, is the main limb of Mahavishnu. Is that main limb. His full name is Advaita, for he is identical in all respects with that Lord. In all respects identical to Mahavishnu. Text 27.
Purveya che koile sarva vishvaret srijan, avatari koile ebe bhakta pravatana.
Translation. As he had formerly created all the universes, now he descended to introduce the path of bhakti. He makes the foundation for the advent of Mahaprabhu. He's going to propagate Shuddha Bhakti, pure, the bhakti that is being, or the theology, the religious truths, etc., are all couched in Mayavadism and Advaitavadism, this idea of oneness, that we can become one with the Lord. We are one with the Lord in the sense of our quality is the same as that of the Lord. We are that same spiritual identity, but we are anuchit, tiny, 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 insignificant. And Krishna is vibhuchit. He's the complete whole, the purna. And we are tiny fragments, vibhinamsa. So Advaita Acharya, he has descended to introduce this path of bhakti, pure devotion to the Lord. Text 28.
Jivanistarila Krishna Bhakti Karidam, Gita Bhagavate Koile Bhakti Rea Vikyan.
Translation. He delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Previously, this thread, this energy, which is described as the secret, the rahasya in Srimad Bhagavatam. We get that third verse. Mayam Mayanti, what's that? Maha, I just forgotten that verse. The third verse of the Chatushloki. Yatamahanti Bhutani Bhuteshu Chadaneshachu. This third verse of the Bhagavatam is describing the rahasya, the secret of this whole process is devotional service. And that devotional service is what eludes people. It's a secret It's considered a secret. But once we understand the power and potency of devotional service itself, and that potency is demonstrated and gifted directly by Advaita Acharya. Although Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu, for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And throughout all his activities, he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. He wasn't walking in his Godhead, because otherwise the conditioned souls, jivas, would also try to walk as God in their Godhead, so to speak, and become greater impersonalists. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they also belong to the category of Vishnu. It's very interesting, I find, that the glories of Virabhadra Prabhu, who was the son of Nityananda, he demonstrated, I've said previously, many godly miracles, so to speak. But this creates sort of the desire in man, ambitious conditioned soul, to develop his own mystic potencies. And if he was developing those mystic potencies, he would be certainly denied of the speciality, sweetness, and beauty of devotional service. It's this beauty of devotional service that is going to give us that yeyatma suprasidati, is going to give us that pure happiness. That devotional service to the Lord should be considered in every action that we perform. Am I performing devotion by this activity? And I've referenced many times this beautiful book that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, this Bhakti Tattva Vivek. This describes what is this Uttam Bhakti and what is Aropsiddha Bhakti, which seems like bhakti, I'm doing something and I'm offering to Krishna, but what is my motivation for doing that? Like Aropsiddha Bhakti, for example, is if someone likes to dig in the garden, they like to grow things, they're like a farmer, and they offer their fruit to Krishna. That's accepted as bhakti, but it's Aropsiddha Bhakti, because the principal inspiration to do the act was because they got joy from it. And the principal desire to do so many things, like painting, for example, like music, for example, because we like that, and then we offer it to Krishna. It wasn't the first initiative was to please Krishna, was to perform devotional service to Krishna. So this is the secret, the rahasya of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in fact, of the Chatushloki. This yatama hanti bhutani bhuteshu cha venishachu. You can see this verse. Rasamanji will post this verse. Third verse of the Chatushloki. I think it's 34 or 35, maybe 36. Text 28. Oh no, sorry, we're right down here in the purport. They also belong to the Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they also belong to the category of Vishnu. They are that Supreme Lord, but they don't manifest themselves as the Supreme Lord. Krishna himself, in a number of times, demonstrated his universal form. In a number of times, he revealed his omniscience, whereas Mahaprabhu also does to Advaita Acharya. When Advaita Acharya first comes to the house of Srivas Thakur, Mahaprabhu instructs him to bring all the paraphernalia and to worship him. And he knows that Advaita Acharya wants to see the complete universal manifestation. So at that time, Mahaprabhu, he demonstrates that universal manifestation just to Advaita Acharya. And Nityananda is also there too, witnessing that event. They also belong to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists, and self-worshippers than they have already become under the spell of this age. This is the demons' age. The demons think they are like God. They're manipulating the weather. They're trying to manipulate the weather, etc. They're trying to play God in the world. They're trying to control the public by putting all kinds of, they call them psyops, illusion within the illusion, into the atmosphere, and try to control men's minds with different conceptions and so on. And they're quite successful, definitely. Men come under their spell. We're all holding these cell phones. They're emitting all kinds of radiation waves which affect the conscious levels of the living entity, and we just go under them in our urgent desire to enjoy matter. But if we understand these topics, like we're talking now, describing them, then we can put some distance between them. We can have some perspective on it. So we have to appreciate the subtleties of creation and how the conditioned soul is acting in the Lord's creation, trying to act like God. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita Acharya especially intended to teach the conditioned souls about devotional service. He's an incarnation or manifestation of devotion. He manifests the worlds. Nityananda is the incarnation of devotion. There's a beautiful distinction between these two. Nityananda is Bhakta Swarup. He's the incarnation of devotion itself. He's always bubbling over in devotional bliss. Advaita Acharya is that devotional manifestation. He's manifesting the environment for this devotional service to flourish. He's preaching Shuddha Bhakti. The word Acharya means teacher. The special function of such a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. Every person who feels themselves any identity as a devotee in any kind of a way should feel that his responsibility, having that identity, is to share these spiritual truths and realizations. The world is tumbling without these moods of devotion. So if we have understood something of this, we should try to support Mahaprabhu's mission with teaching others. The real qualification of an Acharya is that he presents himself as a servant of the Supreme, just like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He would give the most highest conceptions, and then he would go and very reverentially offer his dandavats to Thakurji, to the deities, etc. He would always, in a second, demonstrate the potency of humility. And I've observed that in all of his disciples, they all carry that same seed from Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada of deep, significant humility. I've seen this in many, many, many of the Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada disciples, so much. Just a natural humility is there, because that seed was imparted to them through that personality who was holding so much humility. It's described that the higher the prem, the sweetness, the devotion, the more the humility will be there. And the highest example of that is Sri Radha. She has the highest prem, at the same time the highest humility. So prem and humility are synonymous. This is the truth. Such a bona fide acharya can never support the demonic activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. We cannot support the material society. Where is the material society going? Have more. Enjoy more. Increase my wealth. This is the nature of demonic society. This is the nature of demonic education. And we as devotees sit this, and then we send our kids to get materially contaminated by this education system. We have to wake up and see how they're deforming these young children. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to call it slaughterhouse education. They teach you how to increase your bank balance on the back of murdering animals, ultimately. That's the cause of all the conflict on the planet, is the murdering of cows, our mother. It is the main business of an acharya to defy such impostors, posing as God before the innocent public. Text 29.
Bhakti Upadesha Vishnu Tanra Nahi Karya Ataiva Nama Haile Advaita Acharya.
Translation. Since he has no other occupation than to teach devotional service, his name is Advaita Acharya. Advaita. He's teaching the oneness of devotional. And Acharya, he's the teacher. Text 30. Vaishnavera Guru Tahe Jagatera Acharya Duinama Milane Hoya Advaita Acharya. He is the spiritual master of all devotees and is the most revered personality in the world. By a combination of these two names, his name is Advaita Acharya. Purport. Sri Advaita Acharya is the prime spiritual master of the Vaishnavas, and he is worshipable by all Vaishnavas because he's defining the Tattva Siddhanta to Shuddha Bhakti. Vaishnavas must follow in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya, for by so doing he can actually engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Without that devotional service, nothing can transpire. Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. That by devotional service, constantly worshipping me, Krishna will give the full understanding by which we can come to him in complete joy and surrender and service. Text 31.
Kamala Narayana Teho Yate Anga Angsa Kamalaksha Karidare Nama Avatamsa.
Translation. Since he is a limb or part of the lotus-eyed Supreme Lord, he also bears the name Kamalaksha. Kamalaksha means like lotus eyes. Kamal is a lotus. Kamalaksha, eyes, lotus eyes. He has lotus eyes. Text 32. Ishvara Sarupya Paye Parisad Gana Chaturbhuja Pita Vashe Yache Narayana. His associates have the same bodily features as the Lord, Krishna's associates. They all have 4 arms and are dressed in yellow garments like Narayan. They're all like, when we see Mahavishnu, we've seen paintings. He has his 4 arms, he has his yellow garments as Narayan. Text 33. Advaita Acharya Ishvare Angsavarya Tanra Tattva Namagana Sakila Ascharya. Sri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of the Supreme Lord. His truth, names and attributes are all wonderful. How could they not be wonderful? He's that Supreme Lord himself. Text 34. Yanhara tulasi jale yanhara hunkara swagana sahite chanyera avatara. Translation. He worshipped Krishna with tulsi leaves and the water of the Ganges and called for him in a loud voice. He directly called Brajendranandan Shamsundar. Only someone of the caliber of Mahavishnu could possibly do that. Thus Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth accompanied by his personal associates. Text 35. Yanra dvara kaile prabhu kirtana prachara Yanra dvara kaile prabhu jagata nishtara. Translation. It is through him, Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement, and through him that he delivered the world. Because Advaita Acharya is creating the world, and it's through his loud calling that he came, and it's through his teachings of Shuddha Bhakti that Mahaprabhu is able to purify the world. Mahaprabhu will give something exceptionally extra to Advaita Acharya's teachings. He will give Braja Prem, Brajadam. This is what he will give. This is actually more. Nevertheless, we understand that the backbone, the principal foundation for even beginning Braja Prem is Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti. Anyabilasita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. This is bhakti uttama, highest bhakti. This is what Advaita Acharya is teaching. Text 36.
Acharya Goshanir Guna Mahima Apara Jiva Kita Kotaya Paibeka Tarapara.
Translation: the glory and attributes of Advaita Acharya are unlimited. How can the insignificant living entities fathom them? If we appreciate this achintya nature of these descriptions, and it just therefore our appreciation of Advaita Acharya is going to increase day by day by day by day. Hearing these descriptions, the same as hearing the descriptions of Nityananda Ram, the same as hearing the descriptions of Sri Krishna himself. But Advaita Acharya is going to give us that support to come to Brajendrananda and Shyamsundar. And Nityananda also the same mood of support us. Text 37.
Acharya Goshani Chaitanyara Mukhya Anga Ara Eka Anga Tandra Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Advaita Acharya is a principal limb of Lord Chaitanya. Another limb of the Lord is Nityananda Prabhu. So these are the two main limbs of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to execute his mission. What Mahaprabhu has done in this world, when we look historically, when we see 6 Manvantaras previously, there was no Raganuga Bhakti. There was the desire in the hearts of most men for mukti and sense gratification, etc. Dharma, artha, karta, moksha. These 4 purusarthas were considered the principal goals of life. And even the great sages and sadhus, they would consider themselves successful if they connected with the Aishwarya aspects of the Lord. And yet now the Lord himself, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is going to manifest and give us the Madhurya aspect of the Lord. It's never been here before. 5,500 years ago, it wasn't present. It wasn't there. Men could not have understood the conceptions of Rag Marg prior to the advent of Mahaprabhu. And Advaita Acharya and Nityananda are fully supporting this, because they're giving the principles of Shuddha Bhakti initially, and then on the back of this Shuddha Bhakti, we'll have develop a qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. Without that foundation of Shuddha Bhakti, how can we expect to enter this very sacred realm of Rag Marg, of Braja Prem, Braja Dham? The devotees are Prabhura Upanga Shrivasadi Bhakta Gana Hasta Mukha Netra Anga Chakradadi Astaran Sama. The devotees headed by Srivas are his smaller limbs. They are like his hands, face and eyes, and his disc and other weapons, just like Lord Ramchandra appeared with his weapons embodied as Bharat Maharaj was the chakra. And then there's Satrughna, he was the conch, and Lakshman is the club, Gada. So Srivas is one of the smaller limbs of the Lord.
E Sabalaya Chaitanya Prabhu Vihara E Sabaliya Karina Vanchita Prachara.
Translation: with all of them, Sri Chaitanya performed his pastimes, and with them he spread his mission. Most of the associates of Mahaprabhu, they were practically all his angas and upa-angas. They were all his parts and parcels like that. They were all either demigods or they were directly manifestations from him. It wasn't or empowered personalities like Srivas Thakur, but we'll discuss him soon also. Text 40.
Madhavendra Puriyara Iho ish shishya ejana jane acharya goshanir prabhu guru karya mane.
Translation: thinking he, Sri Advaita Acharya, is a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri, that's the identity he took in the world, Lord Chaitanya obeys him, respecting him as his spiritual master. Purport: Sri Madhavendra Puri is one of the acharyas in the disciplic succession from Madhavacharya. Madhavendra Puri had two principal disciples, Ishvara Puri and Sri Advaita Prabhu. Therefore, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is a disciplic succession from Madhavacharya. This fact has been accepted in the authorized books known as the Gauraganadesh Deepika and the Premier Ratnavali, as well as by Gopal Guru Goswami. The Gauraganadesh Deepika 22 clearly states the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas as follows. Lord Brahma is the direct disciple of Vishnu. He hears the Kambij mantra. He hears that Gayatri mantra, that Gopal mantra. He's the direct Shishya of the Lord himself, the Lord of the spiritual sky. His disciple is Narad. Narad's disciple is Vyasa, and Vyasa's disciples are Sri Shukadev Goswami and Madhavacharya. Madhavacharya went to the Himalayas. He is the embodiment of Vayudev and Hanuman. He had the power, great physical potency, to climb to that cave where Vyasadeva was meditating, and he took direct diksha from Vyasadeva. This is Madhavacharya, directly meeting Vyasadeva. Padmanabha Acharya is the disciple of Madhavacharya, and Narahari is the disciple of Padmanabha Acharya. Madhava is the disciple of Narahari. Akshobhya is the direct disciple of Madhav, and Jaitirtha is the disciple of Akshobhya. Jayatirtha's disciple is Jnana Sindhu, and his disciple is Mahanidhi, and Vidyanidhi is the disciple of Mahanidhi, and Rajendra is the disciple of Vidyanidhi. Jayadam is the disciple of Rajendra. Purushottam is the disciple of Jaidama. Sri Lakshmi Pati is the disciple of Vyasa Tirtha, who is the disciple of Purushottam, and Madhavendra Puri is the disciple of Lakshmi Pati. Who else was the disciple of Lakshmi Pati? Nityananda Prabhu is also a disciple of Lakshmi Pati, but he acts in a way that he's a disciple of Madhavendra Puri also. He meets Madhavendra Puri and they exchange complete ecstasies. So Madhavendra Puri is that Prem Ankur, it's described, the first sprout of Bhav to manifest ever. Ever in existence, this Bhav, this mood of Bhav, is manifesting from Madhavacharya. And then he's empowered, is described just like, not as is a Kalpavriksha tree, but he's like a Kalpavriksha tree. Sometimes less intelligent people think that Madhavendra Puri is a Kalpavriksha tree. He's not a tree, he's like a Kalpavriksha tree. A Kalpavriksha tree can fulfill all your desires. Anything you desire, a Kalpavriksha tree can fulfill. So Madhavendra Puri is of the same quality. All desires can be filled by him. But the translators we have in English anyway, of the Gauraganadesh Deepika, seems to indicate that Madhavendra Puri is a desire tree himself. But he's not a tree, he's not a desire tree. He hasn't come as a desire, he's come as the mood and qualities of that Kalpavriksha tree. This is the wonderful advantage of having a Sadguru to dispel any anomalies of this nature. We asked our Gurudev. One time someone was asking, oh, but it's saying that Madhavendra Puri is a tree, a Kalpavriksha tree. And my Gurudev just laughed. He said, you think he's a tree? He's coming from a tree? No. He's ultimately a gopi, or a Sakhi of Sri Radha. Text 41.
Lokika lalate tarva mayavada rakshana Shruti Bhaktya Caritamrta Charana Vandana.
To maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya, with reverential prayers and devotion. This principle of proper etiquette is most essential for the progressive sadhak to always know his superiors and always to be offering dandavats. Unfortunately, in the Western world, our culture doesn't give us from birth a high respect for our elders, because actually many of our elders were not highly respectable people. So how could we offer our reverential prayers to our parents? Whereas in much of Indian society and culture, their parents are dharmically minded personalities. It's a fact. And you'll see like a 50 or 60-year-old man touching his mother's feet daily, or his father's feet daily. You'll see it constantly happening like that. It's very comforting to see the culture and civilization like that. There's a great atmosphere of that culture still remaining in India. Of course, much of it is eroded by the association with the Western world. But in Western world, where perhaps many of us are coming from, listening here, certainly myself, we had none of that etiquette. Perhaps we honored our teachers, etc., but then we would find fault with them perhaps also. So, but this principle of etiquette, bowing down to the lotus feet of our superiors. So Mahaprabhu bows down to the feet of Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Mahaprabhu is setting the example. Text 42.
Caitanya Goshanikak Acharya Kare Prabhujane Apanake Karina Tanra Tasa Abhimana.
Translation. Sri Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks of himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He always thinks. He called Krishna. He called that Lord Narayan, that Vishnu, that Vrajendranandan Shyam Sundar. Purport. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami explains the super excellent quality of devotional service as follows.
Brahmanando Bhavad Esha Cheta Parada Guni Kritaha Naiti Bhakti Sukham Bodhaye Paramanandu Tulam Api.
If multiplied billions of times, the transcendental pleasure derived from impersonal Brahman realization still could not compare to even an atomic portion of the ocean of bhakti or transcendental service. Consider this. In this material world, everyone is looking for shanti, shantaras, bliss. Give me some peace, brother. Give me some time off. Give me some place to just go into the Brahman. This is like our focus, this is what we aspire for. Most quasi-spiritual groups, they're directing their followers towards a shantaras place. It's the opposite to the reality. Were the gopis particularly peaceful? They were fraught with anxiousness and anxiety, how to please Krishna and pacify his calm, how to elude their superiors so they could be with Krishna. There's nothing about peacefulness there or shantaras. And yet our focus is, because of the extraordinary turbulence in this Kali Yuga, we seek this shantaras, like mukti or liberation. And it has a grain of impersonalism at the back of it, which has to be purified by these teachings. If we still hold on to some impression of finding some impersonal bliss, we're going to be cheated of the real gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Understand this deeply, deeply, deeply. Similarly, in Bhagavata, Deepika states, Tvat Catamrta Partato Vihanantaranto Mahamuda Kurvanti Kirtana Krichik Chaturvargyam Prinopanam. For those who take pleasure in the transcendental topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the four progressive realizations of religious religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, all combined together, cannot compare any more than a straw could to the happiness derived from hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord. And how can we experience that directly? By listening to those Sadgurus who are imbued with that mood. When we hear Sadguru's Katha about these topics, we can be completely transformed to appreciating the bliss and pleasure of divine devotional service to Sri Radha and Krishna in the kunjas of Vrindavan Dham. Only this is what is going to convince us, to give us the shraddha to actually pursue this Braja Prem, this Braja Dham. Otherwise, we'll just by ourselves just wallow in the desire of liberation, peace. Those who engage in the transcendental service of the lotus feet of Krishna, being relieved of all material enjoyment. Material enjoyment is only going to scramble the brain. It's a fact. If you go to a movie, for example, you're trying to enjoy matter, even matter within matter, like a video, a movie. It's not even alive, it's actually matter. You're seeing it enacted on a screen. Then you're going to come out and you're going to be completely bewildered about the potency of devotional service. You won't have any focus of mind or consciousness or gravity to give up that material pursuit. I said before, I think yesterday or the day before, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, when the sense of enjoyment rises, know that humility is far away. As soon as we think, yes, I'm enjoying, know that humility is far away. Of course, we enjoy in the society of devotees and company like that, but our sense of enjoyment is purposeful. It has a focus. We're on a mission to please our Guru Varga, and it's joyful. Susukam. It's saying in Bhagavad Gita, Pratyakshavramam dharmam susukam kartam avyayam. This process is joyful, joyfully performed. But with the focus, if we've purified that remnant of impersonalism within our hearts, then it's going to be joyful. Those who engage in the transcendental service of the lotus feet of Krishna, being relieved of all material enjoyment, have no attraction to topics of impersonal monism. In the Padma, I think this is speaking to me directly. I'm reading this and it's picking out my complete faults, etc. This is how I'm feeling this. In the Padma Purana, in connection with the glorification of the month of Kartik, it is stated that devotees pray, Varnam Deva Moksham Na Mokshavinba Na Kanyam Brine Ham Barashed Apia Idam Te Vapu Nata Gopala Balam Sadame Manasya Avishtam Kim Anya Kuverat Majo Bada Mutyai. I'm not singing. Kuverat Majo, where does it go? Kuverat Majo Bada Mutyai Vayadvat Tvaya Mojito Bhakti Bajo Krito Cha Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakame Prayacha Namokshe Groho Mesti Damodareha. I wasn't recognizing it as the Damodarastikam. And the other verse should have read Varam Deva Moksha, Namoksha, etc. We know these verses very well. Yesterday when I was reading it, I wasn't remembering that I was just reading it as a Sanskrit separately. Dear Lord, always remembering your childhood pastimes at Vrindavan is better for us than aspiring to merge into the impersonal Brahman. Varam Deva Moksha, Na Moksha Vadimba. This is what Satyabrat Muni is saying. During your childhood pastimes, you liberated the two sons of Kuvera and made them great devotees of your lordship. Similarly, I wish that instead of giving me liberation, you may award me with devotional service unto you. Is it devotional service that we want? Is that what we desire? If we come to Vrindavan and go to every Kalpavriksha tree, every cow, Gamandenu cow, beg for mercy, what is it we want the mercy of? We hope that we will replace our material desires with this desire for devotional service. Similarly, I wish that instead of giving me liberation, you may award me with devotion unto you. In the Hyaya Shri Sri Narayan Vyuha Stava, in the chapter called Narayan Stotra, it is stated, Nar Dharmam Karmam Artam Va, Moksham Va Vara Deshvara, Prataya Tava Padabje, Dasyam Eva Bik Ayama Amayaye. My dear Lord, I do not wish to become a man of religion or a master of economic development or sense gratification, nor do I wish for liberation, although I can have all these from you, the supreme bestower of benedictions. I do not pray for any of these. I simply pray that I may always be engaged as a servant of your lotus feet. Actually, the Vaishnava prays to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Gopi Varatu Kamalayo Das Dasanu Das. Nrsingadev offered Prahlad Maharaj all kinds of benedictions, but Prahlad Maharaj did not accept any of them, for he simply wanted to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, a pure devotee wishes to be blessed like Maharaj Prahlad by being thus endowed with devotional service, only devotional service. This is, we said before, the rahasya, the secret, is devotional service. The embodiment of Nityananda, Ram, is devotional service, and the manifestation of that devotional service comes through Advaita Acharya. He is giving us the facility to perform this devotional service. Devotees also offer their respects to Hanuman, who also remained a servant of Lord Ram. The great devotee Hanuman prayed, Bhava Bandhu Chide Tasyai Spriyamani Na Siyame Na Muktyai Bhavan Prabhur Aham Dasa Iti Yatra Vilupyate. I do not wish to take liberation or to merge in the Brahman effulgence, where the conception of being a servant of the Lord is completely lost. What a beautiful verse. There's no sambandha in the Brahman. There's no personality there to be devoted to. It's just you and your Brahmanic experience of Shantaras, complete bliss, nirvana. That's the condition in the Brahman conscious state. That's where we have come from. It's an eternal state. So you can go back there eternally and reside there forever and ever. That's where we originally came from, that eternal Brahmajyoti. That's why we are eternal souls. We've come from an eternal place. But we have this quality of tatashta, to choose between the two, Krishna or that place. Similarly, in the Narada Pancharatra, it is stated, Dharmata karma mokshashu necha marma kadachana tvat pada pankajas sado jivitam dayatam mama. I do not want any one of the four desirable stations. I simply want to engage as a servant of the lotus feet of the Lord. King Kulasheka, in his very famous book, Mukunda Malastotra, prays, Naham vande tava charanayo dvanam vam advandav heto kumbhi pakam gurum api hare narakam na panetam tum. Ramya Rama Mridu Tanu Lata Nandane Navirantam Tum Bhave Bhave Hridaya Bhavane Bhave Yam Bhavantam. My Lord, I do not worship you to be liberated from this material entanglement. We have to check our own consciousnesses. Are we doing these various activities to be liberated from suffering? Is that my motivation? It's very understandable. Generally, that's why we become devotees initially, because we're feeling so much suffering in the material energy. but through the association and practices of the devotional precepts, we come in touch with incredible teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is carrying us into Vrindavan, and for us to hear about the pastimes in Vrindavan, which are all going to be revealed in graphic detail very, very soon through this Caitanya Caritamrta. At the moment, we're building our Siddhantic blocks to be able to put this palace of rasa on, as we've said many times. And now we're discussing the great Siddhanta of Nityananda Rai and the Tattvic truths of Advaita Acharya, so that we'll have a very, very firm foundation to support this immense palace of Ras, which is about to be unfolded and flooded by the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Nor do I wish to save myself from the hellish condition of material existence, nor do I ever pray for a beautiful wife to enjoy in a nice garden. I wish only that I may always be in full ecstasy with the pleasure of serving your Lordship. In Srimad Bhagavatam also there are many instances in the 3rd and 4th cantos in which devotees pray to the Lord simply to be engaged in his service and nothing else. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.4.15, this is right at the very beginning when Vidura is speaking with Uddhava, and 3.25.34 when Kapila Dev is speaking to Devahuti, his mother. 3.25.36, the same conversation, Devahuti and Kapila Dev. 4.8.22, what would that be? 4.8.22. That's in the either Dhruva Maharaj or it's in the arena of Daksha and the Shiva pastime. And 4.9.10, I think this is Dhruva. And 4.20.24, I'm not sure, I can't remember that one. 2024, perhaps that's Prithu Maharaj. I think that's come to Prithu Maharaj at this time. These are the chapters that have been presented here for our meditation. So, okay, we'll stop for today. Thank you all so much for your attention. Without you being here, I would have no one to speak to and would not even begin to remotely have any type of deeper appreciation of these topics. So I feel blessed to have the opportunity to speak these topics. It's unfortunate that we're not physically sitting together so that we can churn these topics deeper. But still, this is the medium that the Supreme Lord has provided. So we accept humbly all his gifts with great humility and thankfulness. So Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nittai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nittai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavaivacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So we'll meet again on Thursday, not tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Hare Krishna.